Our scripture today comes from Mark's Gospel, chapter 11. It should feel familiar to you on this day. Starting with verse 1. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent his 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go to that village ahead of you, and just as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you doing this?' tell him, 'The Lord needs it, and he'll send it back to you shortly.'" They went, and they found a colt outside in the street, tied to a doorway. As they untied it, some people standing there asked, "What are you doing, untying that colt?" They answered as Jesus had told them to, and the people let him go. When they brought the colt to Jesus, they threw their cloaks over it, and he sat on it. And many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches they had cut in the fields. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest." Jesus entered Jerusalem and went to the temple. He looked around at everything, but since it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. This is the word of the Lord. You know, we're in the middle of our sermon series, and we'll be wrapping up our sermon series of Meet Someone New. The idea that we are called to go out and meet new people. That as a Lenten practice, instead of giving something up, what if we made room or made space for encounters with someone new and engaged in conversation? Well, the disciples had the ultimate, these 2 disciples, meet someone new challenge in today's scripture. They were told to go into a town that they weren't from, and to go to the street and find a donkey, and to untie it and take it. And if anybody asked about it, say, "Oh, it's no big deal, the Lord needs it." It was the ultimate meet someone new. You know, sometimes it feels like God just doesn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes it feels like the things that God calls us to do just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. You know, when I was in college, and I told you this story, but I have a picture to go with it. When I was in college, after my freshman year, I knew that I wanted to serve God somehow in that summer. And so I signed up to go to Wyoming and to serve on the Wind River Indian Reservation, running children's programs for groups that would come out. Now, the instructions to go out there was basically this: drive to Wyoming, take Highway 23, which I think it was 23, that takes you to Jackson Hole and to the Grand Tetons. Take that road, and you'll be kind of right on the north end of the reservation. You'll go through a town called Riverton, and then you'll get to this little place called Kinnear. And Kinnear is really just a gas station with a little convenience store. Go past that another probably 6 miles. On the right-hand side, there's an abandoned schoolhouse. Pull in the driveway. Go to the back of the school. In the workshop, there'll be a man named Fred working on some cars. Go find him. He'll give you the keys to the building so you can stay. I was 19. There was a group of us. There were 4 of us together, but we were, all in college. So we went. And we met Fred, who was working in the workhouse in the workshop back behind the school. That's about as happy as Fred gets. That's him with his grandchildren. That's him at his smiliest. Fred was kind of an intimidating guy. Even though he was a small man, he walked like he was 10 feet tall, and he certainly owned the place. And he worked in the workshop. He was the caretaker of the abandoned school. It was an abandoned high school. And when we got there, he looked at us and he said, "Nope. Nope. I told you not to come. I told them that you shouldn't come. I told them you can't stay here this summer." We had exactly 10 days before 60 high schoolers were showing up for their mission trip at Fred's high school. So we convinced Fred. We persisted with Fred. And finally he gave us the keys. And when we got into the school, and opened up the school, we found out why he said no. They had taken compressed air and pushed it through all of the radiant heating so they could turn off the water for the winter. But they had done this in a way where they had taken a valve off and it blew soot and gunk everywhere. So that would be enough, right, to walk into a school that's covered in like this black slime. But what was worse is that this is Wyoming, and there were snake tracks and critter tracks and bug tracks. Now, I don't know if you've seen bugs that are in Wyoming, but they are not small, and they leave tracks in this soot. And this is where we were going to welcome 60 high schoolers for the next 10 weeks, and where we were going to actually live during that time. So we persisted. We got out our mop buckets. We got the windows open and aired it out. Got a lot of bleach, and we cleaned it up. And 10 days later, we were ready for those 60 high schoolers to come and sleep on the floor. We didn't tell them what was on the floor before we got there, but it was clean. It's fine. They came with their sleeping bags and their air mattresses. And because we persisted, God did amazing things. We literally saw miracles. Not only with the young people, but with the community. Sometimes it feels like God doesn't make sense. Go to Wyoming, find the schoolhouse, go around back, meet a man named Fred. Ask him for the keys, and when he says no, don't take no for an answer. And when you get there, you better clean up the floor, you better be ready to mop some floors. Because I'm going to do some amazing things. Sometimes God doesn't make a lot of sense. But when we persist, God can do anything. You know, this Palm Sunday thing that we do is very sweet. We wave palm branches and we celebrate this triumphant entry into Jerusalem that Jesus had. And just to give you a picture of up above Jerusalem, you can kind of see the places that they were. They went from Bethany to the Mount of Olives and into the Temple Mount and back out to stay the night. But here's the thing. There was nothing about this event that was business as usual. Normal people didn't enter into Jerusalem with a fanfare. In fact, the last person who had done this was a subversive leader, Maccabeus, who had come into Jerusalem to lead a revolution 200 years before Jesus had come, and he had done this same thing with this fanfare. And when they're shouting Hosanna, they're quoting Psalm 118, and they're literally using the words. That little Hosanna in the highest, the Son of David has come. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, is Psalm 118. And they are shouting, save us. Save us. Save us. We need a Messiah. We need a ruler. It's a prophetic call for help. This was not business as usual. This was not a normal day coming into Jerusalem. This was an act of revolution. And that would be enough. Except there's this funny thing that happens right at the beginning, where Jesus takes two of his disciples aside. He pulls them over and he says, guys, I need you to do something for me. I need you to go into town. I need you to go find a colt, a young colt, that nobody's ever ridden, and I need you to untie it and bring it back to me. Now, sometimes we think people in this time period are more religious or more spiritual than we are now. They're not. They might have been more superstitious. But the idea of going into town and stealing somebody's donkey was not a good idea. It wasn't like, oh, the Lord needs it, no big deal. No. No. Can you imagine going to the gas station and putting gas in your car and then, oh, the Lord needs it. See you later. Right? Or going to the car dealership and being like, I need this one for the Lord. Like, no. If someone came to your farm and said, I need your strongest, freshest, young colt for the Lord. A total stranger, would you give it to them? Probably not. So this was not business as usual. In fact, this was very uncomfortable. I imagine the disciples were not excited about this task of going into town and asking for this donkey. Maybe if you were a priest, you could get away with it, but not a couple average Joes. But they went because they were told to go. And they had to go meet somebody new because they knew if Jesus told them what to say, they were going to have an uncomfortable encounter with the townsfolk, right? So they get there, and the people ask them, "What are you doing with the donkey?" And they say, "The Lord needs it." And for some incredible reason, they say, "Okay. See you tomorrow? Bring it back when you're done?" I mean, it's beyond belief. It certainly isn't practical. It certainly isn't business as usual. It certainly doesn't make a lot of sense, but because they persisted, Jesus was able to do amazing things. You know, sometimes it feels like God doesn't make sense. But maybe that's the point. Maybe that really is the point. Somewhere in the space of my own discomfort and a disorienting circumstance, God is able to show up. Maybe somewhere in that space where I get over my own anxiety and I'm dealing with my own insecurity and I have to have a little extra courage and I have to set aside my desires or my pride or I have to simply just get over myself and put myself in a circumstance that maybe feels uncomfortable or unnatural or not easy, or maybe it's going to take too much time, or maybe it's out of my way. Maybe it's not on my drive home, but when I take this discomfort and I combine it with an unusual circumstance, if I stand in that space, it creates room for God to show up. Because I'm no longer in control. It's no longer about me and what I want and what I hope for, or what my plan is or my agenda is. It's no longer about saving my own face or thinking about my own reputation. I mean, the disciples had to be worried, right? When they went to untie it quietly. I mean, they're putting themselves on the line. But when we get to that place where it's no longer about us, and it's no longer about my agenda, it allows room for God to do something amazing. The story of Palm Sunday is the story where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it created space for God to show up in a really big way. You know, when we moved here 4 years ago, about a year and a half before we moved here, some of you know this story, our good friends came to us and said, "We want to move to Northfield. It's in our 5-year plan to move to Northfield. We think you should come with us." And Josiah and I laughed. We're like, "Yeah, whatever. Find us a church." They're fully Jewish for. So about 6 months later, my very dearest friend says, "I want to move to Northfield. That's where I want to go. That's where we're going to move with our kids, is to Northfield." And we're like, "Why is everybody going to Northfield?" And our good friends are like, "We're moving to Northfield. It's where we want to be. We think you should come with us." And Josiah and I are like, "Oh, whatever." So when our district superintendent came to me 4 years ago, actually this week, 4 years ago, it was during Holy Week. In fact, it was on Monday, Thursday. I remember because he called me and he said, "Hey, Shauna, do you have time to meet today?" And I'm like, "Hey, it's Monday, Thursday. I have church." We made time. Sometimes you do. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You do what God tells you to do. But we sat down and he said, "Would you consider Northfield?" And I literally laughed out loud. And I went home and I told my husband, and he laughed out loud. And we were like, "Seriously?" And in that time leading up to it, God was getting us ready. And sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you submit yourself, if you just persist, God can do amazing things. And so we came. And we've served. And we've been blessed. And we've seen God do amazing things in this place and through all of you. So when we received the call to go back to St. Paul, I think my 9-year-old summed it up best. We just moved from there. called to figure it out and make sense of it. We're called to do what God tells us to do. And sometimes that means putting yourself aside, your own agenda, your own pride, your own hope, your own plan, embracing an unusual circumstance that might feel a little unnatural and counter to what you wanted to do. And you take those two things together and you know that God is going to do something amazing. Now you might say, well, I'm not a pastor and I'm not being called to do those kinds of things. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're a pastor or not. If you are following Jesus, you are called. It's actually taking the postcard that you received and handing it to a friend or mailing it to a friend. You are called to do these kinds of things, to go out and to meet new people, to find new ways, to make new space for God to do amazing things in your life. And as you pray about it, and as you read God's word, as you reflect this week, allow yourself the space. Persist in your faith so that God can show up and do that amazing thing, because I am convinced that God is already doing amazing things. God already has a plan for you to do amazing things as a church and as individuals. It just means creating a little space, making a little room. The Lord needs you. I titled today's sermon, Can I Borrow Your Burro? God is doing amazing things. Persist. Even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense. Keep going. Because God is doing amazing things. I'm going to invite you to stand as we sing our hymn of response together. It's number 454 in the hymnals. Let us sing.